Am I the bad guy if I report my coworker for making TikToks about me? I want to share a story that really shook me recently, and it all started with a coworker named Karla. We both work in healthcare, and from the moment she joined the team, I sensed some tension between us. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was there. A little background: I had knee surgery not too long ago, which meant I had to take some time off work. When I returned, I thought things would go back to normal. I had no idea that my absence might have stirred up any negative feelings among my coworkers. After all, I was just trying to heal and get back to my routine. One evening, while I was scrolling through TikTok, I stumbled upon a video that made my heart sink. It was Karla, and she was talking about how everyone at work hated me. She went on to call me lazy and even made a disturbing comment about slashing the bitch's tires. With me being the bitch in question, I was shocked. The caption even hinted at my name, making it clear she was talking about me. I spent the next hour crying, feeling utterly defeated. I've always prided myself on being a nice person who gets along with everyone, so this felt like a slap in the face. I reached out to my mom for advice, hoping for some comfort. Instead, she told me I was being too sensitive and that I should just let it go. But how could I? Karla even posted a video that showed the back of my car, complete with my license plate. It felt like a violation of my privacy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was back in high school, dealing with bullying all over again. I was torn. Should I report her? I knew that if I did, she could potentially lose her job, and that weighed heavily on my conscience. But I also felt that her actions were unacceptable, especially in our line of work where professionalism is key. I turned to the online community for support, and the overwhelming response was that I wasn't at fault for wanting to report her. People reminded me that her behavior was not only childish, but also dangerous. I saved the videos and screenshots, just in case she decided to delete them. I realized I needed to stand up for myself, something I hadn't done in a long time. It was a wake-up call that I couldn't ignore. With the encouragement of the online community, I decided to take action. I emailed my supervisor, who I knew would take my concerns seriously. I felt a mix of anxiety and relief as I hit send. I was determined not to let this slide, especially since I had worked hard to create a positive work environment for myself. A few days later, I received a response from my supervisor. She was supportive and assured me that the matter would be taken seriously. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had taken the first step in addressing the situation, and I was ready to face whatever came next. In the end, I learned that standing up for myself was not just about me. It was about creating a safe and respectful workplace for everyone. I hope that by sharing my experience, I can encourage others to speak up when they find themselves in similar situations. No one deserves to be bullied, especially in a professional setting. I want to share my experience with workplace bullying and how I finally found the courage to stand up for myself. It all started when a coworker of mine began making TikTok videos that targeted me directly. At first, I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just harmless fun. But as the videos continued, it became clear that this was more than just a joke. She was using my name and even posted a video that included the back of my car with my license plate visible. That crossed a line for me. I spent a sleepless night thinking about the situation. I realized that while I could ignore her dislike for me, I couldn't ignore how she was degrading me online. I knew I had to take action. With the support of my supervisor, who had also witnessed the bullying, I decided to report her to Human Resources. Thankfully, I wasn't the only one who had raised concerns about her behavior. Several others had reported similar incidents, which made my case stronger. The next day, I walked into HR with my supervisor by my side. It felt surreal as I recounted my experiences. I was nervous, but I knew I was doing the right thing. The following day, I received the news that she had been fired. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction as I watched her being escorted out of the building by security. Her friends at work seemed to be celebrating, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had been worried about how my coworkers would react, but to my surprise, everyone treated me normally. It was a relief to know that I had the support of my team. I also learned that she had deleted her entire TikTok account, which felt like a small victory. We had stood up to the bully, and I was proud of myself for taking that step. Throughout this process, I received a lot of encouragement from others who had experienced similar situations. Many pointed out that workplace bullying, especially in healthcare, is unacceptable. It made me reflect on the culture of silence that often surrounds such behavior. I even had conversations with my mother, who seemed to think that I should just let it go. But I knew that times had changed and I couldn't allow bullying to be normalized anymore. I also considered reporting her to the nursing board as my supervisor suggested, but I hesitated. She had already lost her job and I wasn't sure if I wanted to take it that far. However, I did recognize that her actions could have serious implications for her career. This experience taught me the importance of standing up for myself and others. It's crucial to create a workplace where everyone feels safe and respected. I hope that by sharing my story, I can encourage others to speak out against bullying and support one another in the process. After all, no one should have to endure harassment at work, and together, we can make a difference. Am I the bad guy for telling my paternal grandparents on Christmas Day that my brother and I hate them for insulting our dead mom all the time? When I was just 5 years old, my world changed forever with the loss of my mother. My brother, who was 7 at the time, and I had to navigate life without her. 2.5 years later, our dad started dating our stepmother. He introduced her to us after they had been together for 6 months, which meant it was 3 years since we lost our mom. Around that time, my grandparents began making hurtful comments about our mother. They claimed she was selfish and a bad mother for not making us promise to love our stepmother. They seemed to think that our feelings about her were a direct reflection of our mom's shortcomings. It was incredibly frustrating because our dad had always respected our feelings. He never pressured us to accept our stepmother as a replacement for our mom. He simply hoped that, in time, we might grow to love her as a bonus mom. Despite the adjustments, things eventually settled down with our stepmother, and we found a way to coexist. However, my grandparents continued to blame our mom for our reluctance to embrace her. Every visit with them felt like a minefield of negative comments about her. Often, my dad would be out of the room when these comments were made, but when he was there, he would tell them to stop. One particular incident stands out in my memory. My grandmother went on a rant, calling my mom the ultimate selfish person who couldn't bear the thought of her children loving another woman. She even suggested that my mom should have died when we were babies so we could move on without her. I remember my dad losing his temper that day, and we didn't see my grandparents for over a year until my grandmother finally apologized to him. My brother and I overheard everything, and it shattered our view of them. This Christmas was different. It was the first one my brother missed because he chose to spend it with our mom's family. My grandparents were shocked and couldn't stop talking about how unfair it was that he hadn't visited. They knew he wasn't speaking to them, but his absence sparked a lot of conversation. They turned their attention to me, commenting on how I looked like I didn't want to be there and how hurtful it was because they loved me just as much as they loved my brother. In that moment, I felt a surge of anger. I couldn't hold back anymore. I told them that the reason we disliked them so much was their constant insults toward our mother. I reminded them that she was our dead mom, someone who couldn't defend herself against their cruel words. I expressed how their comments had stripped away any respect or affection we had for them. My grandmother was left speechless, while my grandfather attempted to argue back. Thankfully, my dad stepped in and told him to be quiet, and he took me home. Afterward, my stepmother stayed behind for a little while, but my dad was clearly upset. He apologized for not handling the situation better and admitted he wouldn't have kept them around if he had known we could hear their hurtful comments. The rest of the day was filled with calls and texts from my grandparents, who seemed to think I needed to be disciplined for speaking up. When I told my brother what happened, he expressed that he wished he had done the same but couldn't bear to see them anymore. In the end, I wondered if I had crossed a line. Was I the bad guy for standing up for my mom? Am I the bad guy for cutting my mom off after she told me she asked for 1 grandchild, not 2? I find myself in a tough situation and really need to know if I'm in the wrong. I grew up as an only child with my mother, who always prioritized her appearance and social life over everything else. While we were once close, things changed when I struggled with alcohol during a challenging period of my life. After 2.5 years of battling severe postpartum issues, I finally decided to get sober 6 years ago, and life has been much better since. A few years back, my husband and I started trying for another baby. Unfortunately, I discovered I had medical issues that made conceiving naturally difficult, so we turned to in vitro fertilization. I was shocked when my mom didn't support me during this process. She never attended any appointments or offered to help with fertility shots, despite being there for friends and family in similar situations. When I finally got pregnant, I was considered high risk. Yet again, she didn't show up for any appointments, claiming she was too busy with her own life. Things took a turn for the worse when she booked a trip to Greece while I was 8 months pregnant. I was terrified she would miss the birth of my daughter, but I let it go, hoping she would come around once the baby arrived. However, the opposite happened. My son, who is now 9, has always been treated like royalty by her, with a full wardrobe and his own room at her house. But when my daughter was born, it was a different story. She barely acknowledged her existence, refusing to take her for visits and only offering to babysit in emergencies. Fast forward to now, my daughter is 2 years old and a joy to be around. My mom had been taking her overnight occasionally, but then out of nowhere, she called to say she wouldn't watch my daughter anymore. She even had the audacity to say, I only asked for one grandchild. That was the breaking point for me. I couldn't believe she would say something so hurtful, especially when she's in great health and has the time to travel and socialize. I told her that if she wouldn't take my daughter, she couldn't see my son either, and I cut her off from our family. While most of my family supports my decision, some think I should just let it go, especially with the holidays approaching. But I believe my daughter deserves the same love and attention as her brother. I've had to explain the situation to my son, who is understandably upset but understands my reasoning. I'm left wondering if I'm the bad guy here for wanting equal treatment for my children. I just want my daughter to feel valued and loved, just like her brother does.